Hello everyone again. My name is Paul Sost. I'm here with Eddie Moreno, and we're going to disassemble and do some minor diagnostics of an NSK ti95X and an NSK ti95 an x95L and a ti95L. So Eddie, if you would pick up the x95L, and we can start with that particular handpiece. Go ahead.
I start.
The x95.
Like,
Yeah, that one there.
yeah. All right. We'll take off this.
Okay, so we're going to take off the head and the transmission. Let me zoom in on that a little bit, Eddie. Okay, go ahead. Yep, there's a screw right at the alignment pin. And Eddie's going to loosen that screw at the alignment pin. And this is, remember, this is for the x95L. So he's going to loosen that screw, not to the point where it comes out, because it's a very long screw. It goes up to the neck.
No, it's in there.
Okay, so he's got it loosened. He had to make a special tool. It's a very small screw, so you may have to make that tool. The head now comes out, so now you've got the head and the upper transmission away from the handpiece. So now he's going to go ahead and take the back cap off. Okay, the back cap is off. And he's going to hold the transmission as he unscrews and breaks the transmission loose. The transmission screws up into the head. So now he's going to unscrew the transmission out of the head. Okay, and then he can take the cartridge out of the head by just punching it out. Okay, so now the cartridge is out. You saw how he used the block in order to punch that out. You may need to do that. Let me come back here. Now in that transmission there are bearings, and obviously in the head cartridge there are bearings. You're going to do a pull test on the cartridge. And if the cartridge passes the pull test, then you need to check the bearings. If it doesn't pass the pull test, then you automatically have to replace the cartridge. And one thing about NSK, they do not sell their parts separately, so the gears on that transmission are not replaceable. On the NSK, you have to replace the entire transmission. But the head cartridges are, you can replace the bearings on the head cartridges. Eddie, what is that you just took out there?
This is the.
Is that the O-ring?
The O-ring for water line here.
Okay, that's the water line O-ring. It's a good idea to probably replace those every time you open this handpiece up. But those would be placed back into the handpiece. It's a cause of leaking of the handpiece at the head. So he's going to go ahead and let's go, Eddie. Just show them. We're not going to take the bottom half, the bottom transmission out of this handpiece. But if you were having problems on the bottom half of this handpiece, you would use a tool. Now that tool can be gotten from HPP. It is part number EXA001. And that's the tool you would use to take the bottom half of that apart. You would take that on, you would unscrew it. Now you've got to be very careful. Like this particular handpiece, is stuck on there, meaning it's been Loctited on. Eddie with his hands cannot take it off, but in order to get that off, you would have to heat this handpiece up. Now you got to be careful because you see the red stripe. That indicator stripe is to tell you it's a 1 to 5 speed increasing attachment, and once you heat that up, you would lose that tape. So it's important to understand that going forward. Those handpieces, we very rarely have to get into the bottom of that handpiece. What we're doing more than anything here at SCR is doing bearing replacements on the head and transmission replacements and or cartridge, complete cartridge. Okay, Eddie right now is showing you how to test the bearings in the dog clutch. Okay, so that handpiece is good. So Eddie's going to go ahead and put that handpiece back together. He's going to place the cartridge in the head.
You have one line here. One board, one.
Okay.
Only one position.
One position. Okay, so there's an aligning pin on the cartridge that you'll need to line up, very similar to your cartridges on your Japanese canisters. It only goes in one way. It's very important.
This coming easy. This is a little hard. It has dent the head.
Okay.
In this case.
Okay. In that case, it's a little bit. What Eddie's saying, it's a little bit that should go very easily in there. It did not because there's a slight dent in the head.
It's dent here. Yeah.
Right. So that dent is still in the head because this handpiece has not been approved in SCR yet. So we have not fixed it yet. But Eddie would go ahead and fix that dent in order to put the cartridge in the handpiece. He's putting the back cap back onto the head, and then he's going to take the transmission and he's going to go ahead and screw the transmission back up into the head. And as you can see, he's going to tighten it. He's not going to over tighten it, but he's going to tighten it down to where.
You test it here.
Okay, then he's testing it. So what he's done is to make sure that everything's seated properly. He has he just twists the bottom transmission gear to make sure everything's smooth. Now he's putting the head back onto the handpiece with the transmission down, and he's going to go ahead and tighten that screw that is in the center of that alignment pin, and then the handpiece is back together. Okay, and then that's done. Very good, Eddie. Okay, the next handpiece we're going to look at, slightly different, is the 95L, the ti95L. The last handpiece we worked on was an x95L. This is a ti95L. So this is a little different, and Eddie's going to go ahead and show you how to take this handpiece apart. There's a screw on the back of it, the back neck of the handpiece. What he's doing there is that he's securing the handpiece by putting a burr in it and putting the handpiece in the block. Okay, he's now unscrewing that screw in the neck. And now he is going to take the head and the transmission out. That's obviously a little bit easier, and it's very obvious where that screw is and what it's for. He's going to take the back cap off of this head. Okay, and now he can take
3 screw here.
Okay, so hang on one second. Let me just get a little bit of closer look in there.
You have 3.
Okay, so that head is held on. It's not screwed in. It is held in. Okay, Eddie, I've got it. Okay, that head is screwed in. I mean, it has 3 screws on each side that need to be taken out in order to separate the head from the transmission and to get the cartridge out of the head.
This screw, the 3, is a little more short. This.
Okay, so those screws are probably the same size and diameter and thread, but they're shorter.
This is shorter here. The longer for here.
The longer screw is for the neck, and then the three shorter screws would be in the head. Okay, so he's gotten the screws out, and now he's taking the transmission out. At this point now he can look at the head, take the cartridge out of the head. The same scenario on this transmission. NSK does not sell gears, so if there's a gear problem on that transmission, you have to buy the whole transmission. They do sell bearings for that transmission. Well, I mean, they don't sell bearings, but we have identified the bearings for that transmission, so we can get you the transmission. Same thing with the cartridge. I want to zoom in on the cartridge a little bit. That cartridge, you can put new bearings into that cartridge, but if the gear is broken on the spindle, or if the chuck is not holding, you have to replace the entire cartridge. Okay, so Eddie's going to go ahead and start the reassembly of this handpiece. While he's doing that, and we're filming it, the bottom of the handpiece would work identical if you needed to get to the dog clutch. You would need to use that tool EXA001 to take out off the bottom half of that handpiece to expose the dog clutch. So he's got the cartridge back in the head. Now he's going to insert the transmission back into the head.
This transmission have one. You see this here?
Okay, I'm going to zoom in on that, Eddie.
They have one piece here, the metal.
Okay.
This go back. In back. The head, not the front.
Okay, so that little indentation in the metal goes in the back and not in the front of the head. Obviously, lining it up properly is very, very important.
Yeah, this piece go here.
Yep. Okay.
You have another hole here for the another screw.
Okay. Right. So that's an easier way to look at it. Is the mounting screw that holds the transmission in place is on the rear, so that's where you want that screw to end up when you put it back together. So now he's putting the three little screws back into the head. Okay, remember, you see what he's doing? It's just hand tight. You don't want to crank down on it too much. You want to make sure it's snug, but you don't want to crank down on it too much. Okay, he's inspecting it. Now he's going to insert the transmission.
Use the same O-ring in the top.
Okay, so this particular one uses the exact same O-ring as the one we just did. In the top, so that's going to sit down. That's important. Those two O-rings are for the chip air and the chip water. So if you have any leaking of chip air, chip water at the neck, that is what has been compromised. Those O-rings. I think sometimes in the past you guys have gotten some of these back where there's a slight leak at that junction in the handpiece after we fixed it, and that's solely because we've taken it apart, and when you've put it back together, the O-rings actually needed to be replaced even though they looked like they were good. Okay, so now he's got it back together, he's got it all lined up, and he's going to put the neck back, the next screw back in, which is going to hold that transmission into place.
This screw and this screw outside, it is putting little Loctite.
Okay, so there needs to be a little Loctite inserted on that screw in the back neck.
Yeah, when he take off this for fifth time, he needs heat it up little bit.
Okay, so
Take little bit in there for take off the screw.
okay, so what Eddie's saying there is that if you know, it may not be, but at some point there may be where you need to put Loctite, or there was Loctite put on there, and you may need to heat it up in order to, and you see how he's applying that as well. His Loctite is somewhere else, and he's just applied a little bit on the threads. He hasn't poured it onto the handpiece and into the handpiece. That was a good trick, Eddie, to show them how to use Loctite no matter in what situation you're actually using it in.
The question when working, sometimes missing this screw.
Yep, that we've had many come in here that are missing that screw.
Missing screw, if for not putting Loctite.
Okay, that's why you need to put the Loctite on there, because there were screws, we get them in here all the time that are missing that particular screw. Okay guys, as always, thank you, and I thank Eddie for his work here, and if you have any questions, please give me a call. Thank you.